Hey, thanks for coming by another No BS video update. The title of today's post is very a simple word, but it's not necessarily a simple concept, especially online. It's friendship. And while we're talking the terms of friendship in terms of fans, followers, friends online, well, it goes much deeper than that. And that's why I use the word friendship. So many people are worried about building their numbers, having a bigger number base, but they're not really worried about building connections. They're not really worried about building friends. And the reason I use friendship is simple. Let's talk about, well, just daily life. If you were looking for a maid service, would you look at the online reviews of people you don't know, maybe some that could have been even bought or paid for, to steer you to a maid service? Or would you ask your friends? Well, if you have people you trust, people you've connected with, people you've built a bond with, you trust their judgment, you trust their values, you trust, well, their input a little bit more than others. At least I think you do. At least that's the way the world usually works. So if you've built friends online, you can ask them to do things for you, and they in turn will ask you to do things for them. So it truly is a two-way street. And I talk so much about social media being a two-way street. There are too many people out there trying to have people pay attention to them that they're not willing to give back in return. Going back to the early days of social media, going back to the MySpace days, I got connected with Taylor Swift before she really became the big superstar that she is today. She was just out visiting radio her first time around. We were both very interested in MySpace, and we got to talking about MySpace. And we got to connect and bond over MySpace. So I was doing some research at the time, trying to formulate what's now Intensity Media Social Media No BS plan. And I noticed that Taylor's MySpace friends went one night from 3,000 people to almost 10,000 the next morning. And I knew that that wasn't that easy to do. In fact, I'd never even seen it before, especially with somebody that nobody ever heard of. It's one thing when you're a big superstar in music, but it's another thing when you're an artist that nobody had heard of at the time. So I called the president of a record label and said, "What's going on here? Do you know?" He said, "No, let me check with Taylor and her mom." Well, we come to find out that the night before, Taylor had a slumber party. And I do mean a slumber party at her house. She was still in high school at the time. And she invited some girlfriends over, and they were on MySpace. And they took that old, well, I call it the game of telephone, where you ask them, maybe it's more megaphone, where you ask two of your friends to ask two of their friends to ask two of their friends to become your friend on MySpace or wherever. And that's what they did. And they in turn took how many of her girls they had, 10, 12 girls over for the sleepover, and had that kind of exponentially turn into, well, almost 7,000 fans overnight. Now, is there a little mythic proportion to this? Perhaps. At least that's the story I got, and it's the story I believe. Because I saw the power of friendship. I saw the power of giving and taking. Too much people are wanting to take online. Too much people want you to do for them, but don't want to do for you. It's much like when you follow somebody on a site, or you try to friend them on a site, and they don't follow you back. And I don't care whether it's Twitter, I don't care whether it's Instagram, I don't care wherever it is. It kind of makes it a little bit more hollow. I care about paying attention to you because I think you're a cool person, but yet you don't think I'm worthy enough to connect back with. And that sadly is too many media personalities and recording artists and a lot of the people I deal with. I think it also plays to just everyday, average human beings too. Think about the power of friendship. Think about building a two-way connection with people, something where they can rely on you and you can rely on them. Now, I realize you can't have 100,000 friends or 1,000,000 friends. That's when it becomes more of fans and followers. And by the time you're dealing with 1,000,000 followers, you're not going to be watching these videos anyway because you don't care. You've already got it mastered. But think about the power of friendship. Think about the give and the take. Think about taking these fans, these followers, these, well, if you want to call them connections, and turning them into a true value. Not only for you, but for them too. Friendship. Easy word, not so easy a concept. Back next week with another No BS update. You can always find us online, intensitysocial.com. We've got the videos up on YouTube as well. Our main website, give you all the information here, intensitymedia.net. If you need to get a hold of me, all the details are coming up. See you next week.